Hello, and welcome to the Gaia update for the total lunar eclipse that is happening on May 26th, 2021. This total solar eclipse or total lunar eclipse happens with the moon close to the south node, not too far. Eclipses happen when the sun and the moon line up with the nodes of the moon and everything's in a line. So the eclipse season is about aligning up. It's about things being hidden and revealed. Very powerful energy for this time that we're in right now, at the height of cognitive dissonance and confusion as humanity grapples with its path forward to freedom. So this full moon happens at 5 degrees Sagittarius. The very early degrees of Sagittarius, the early degrees of any sign, has an energy of an initiatory energy, an excitement for the energy of that sign. It's like, let's go, let's move into this energy. The early degrees of Sagittarius are like the phoenix rising from the ashes. Scorpio, about going deep into the depths, searching for meaning, searching for truth, searching for substance, and then taking that journey and bringing it back into the light, into expression. This is a fiery energy of transformation and reaching out. Sagittarius has an energy of the horizon, reaching out to more possibilities, a bigger, wider perspective. Indeed, this is what we're all searching for in these very confusing times, and we're going to be having a bloom of these times beginning with this lunar eclipse. So eclipse season, very confusing and shrouded with mystery as Mercury begins to take a retrograde just a couple of days after this lunar eclipse. So Mercury retrograde at home in Gemini, in his home sign. And so we're looking at trying to find a new perspective, a rearranging of our psychic awareness, of our perspective of reality. So it feels like this Mercury retrograde is going to be very different than other Mercury retrogrades, because it's the pressure of the cognitive dissonance and the exposure of truth, but the uncomfortable place of when you don't want to look at those truths. And that's where humanity is. And yet we cannot go any further without this disclosure. There's this uncomfortable feeling that things just aren't what they seem. It's this feeling of not being able to find stability in your thinking or your psychic perception, because this underlying feeling in the collective consciousness that things just aren't quite adding up. And so it seems like this Mercury retrograde, this energy starting with this lunar eclipse, moving us into a whole 6 week period of time of sorting through mental confusion. And we know this feeling, right? Because we're revisiting with Venus and Gemini. We're revisiting the feelings from last year with the Venus retrograde in Gemini, where we were faced with absolute unknown and uncertainty around who we are and what we want and our direction forward. And here we are 1 year later. Have we figured anything out? Have we gotten anywhere? Well, now is the time to sort through all of this so that we can move forward. And so this full moon is really powerful, because leading up to this full moon, starting to feel this in the week before, is the sun coming into square with Jupiter. As the sun moves over into Gemini, so then we're going to have the sun and Venus and Mercury and the North Node all in Gemini. So huge bloom of Gemini energy, and this is a mutable sign. And Jupiter in Pisces, a mutable sign in this, so creating a mutable square and a mutable T-square with this full moon. The moon in Sag, the sun in Gemini in square at those early degrees, Jupiter at 1 degree Pisces. So Jupiter wants to expand, and now that it's in Pisces, it's like wanting to expand back into our connection to source, spirituality, a feeling of connection to something. And we've seen how the current events and current things playing out, there's a very deliberate agenda to do everything possible to keep us, to disconnect us from the power of our source within. And Jupiter at the beginning degrees of Pisces is, Jupiter brings expansion, it brings amplification to wherever it is. Early degrees of Pisces, it's like this trying to bring more of our connection to spirituality, revelation. What in the hell are we doing here? There's got to be more than this, right? And it's weird because maybe that's where humanity is. It's like, no. I want to go to sleep. Give me the poison. Give me the whatever. I'm living through fear. And then humanity that's taking the choice to make the leap into a new level of human experience. This is what's being initiated for us over this next period of time as we head into the solstice. So as we're moving into this full moon, Sun square Jupiter. Now the Sun is, who do you think you are? And in Gemini, I don't know. I'll chameleon. I'll see what it's like over here in this camp, and I want to know more about this over here, and I'm gonna, explore options. And but maybe that feeling of not really knowing your own mind. And this is exactly how humanity got to this place of programming. And now it's time to undo. So we're going to go into a period of time in this retrograde of more confusion, but it's really about undoing the bad software program that has been holding humanity back from its spiritual evolution for thousands of years. And so here we are on the precipice, and we cannot move forward without making right in our psyche the truth, or more, it's like this cognitive dissonance, and yet so many humanity still running from the truth. So this is this uncomfortable period of time, the truth becoming more and more evident, and those that are choosing not to see becoming more and more disconnected. So when you're in denial of truth, and denial, like say in a bad relationship, and you'd rather just go along with the program and not be alone, and even though it's an abusive situation, when you are denying the truth, the deeper truths, psychically, then you're literally disconnecting yourself from life force, And this is where there's this demand after that Mars square Chiron, a demand for authenticity. What's really going on here, And it's like that split in the timeline of like, oh, I don't want to know, I don't want to know, I don't want to know, to like, wait a minute, I need to know. I need to feel better about this. I need to see the bigger picture, right? So Sagittarius full moon, lunar eclipse, pushing us into this unknown in order to become hopefully more clear and more connected and more at peace on a psychic level after this Mercury retrograde. So we'll see about that. But wow, what intense energy, because this is about this coming out of the darkness and back into the light, claiming this creation force, these early degrees of Sagittarius, claiming your path. Now, the full moon happening at 5 degrees is not far from the south node at 10 degrees, less than 5 degrees apart. And so the south node in Sagittarius is being really highlighted. Now, this has been a backdrop energy. And we haven't had a full bloom of Sagittarius energy for a while. And so it's very powerful because it's highlighting the south node in Sagittarius and the old stories that are keeping you from fully living, from being that phoenix coming out of these old stories. Now, what keeps supernova souls a lot in the past, the Sagittarius south node, is speaking to where you feel responsible or like you failed in your mission on Earth because we've gotten so off the rails. And the message coming through is so important right now. It's like you haven't even gotten started. There's this bigger part of you that's landing. You don't even know who you are. Maybe we need this disorientation so we can drop those old stories so that we can move, be leaders in moving to a new level of human existence and experience. Humanity is leveling up. And those old stories from the past don't make any sense because it's like, wait a minute, we've been triggered. This is part of the program that triggers advanced souls, is this guilt and grief over the planetary evolutionary path, right? And poking you, your hot button issue, gets you go back down into the weeds of the lower matrix vibrational reality. But the message here is like, oh wait, you aren't even really, you're in the process of incarnating this bigger self of who you really are. And the energies have not been supportive on any level for you to come into this new level, to demonstrate and exist and being the demonstration project of this new level of human experience. It hasn't even started. So how could you have failed in your mission? You haven't even started. And that's where we just come up out of those ashes, use that black moon Lilith sextile Neptune that we've been feeling so intensely this last couple of weeks. It's still affecting us. It's come off from its exact, but it's this magic key to just drop all those old stories. It's like taking off that zoot suit, just peeling away the layers of everything you've been for everybody else throughout this whole evolution. And just being like, oh, my time to fly. See ya, And so this is what's trying to happen for the supernova soul. Release into mental clarity, back into connection to source, back into knowing that you didn't fail because you haven't gotten started. And a glorious future lies ahead as we allow ourselves to drop these old stories. But what's happening is that we're coming up against, especially the Sagittarius energy, maybe bringing it up because this full moon, this South Node Sag, and this full moon is like this fire and this passion for a quest, Sagittarius is the hero's journey. It's like traveling and seeking and learning and discovering. And so it's like we're giving ourselves permission again to get back on our spiritual path. It's like we didn't even think we deserved to have it. But there's also this fear programming coming up that you can't find this fear programming until you step into your power, until you get freedom. There's a very interesting thing going on in the psyche of supernova souls, it feels like, with as the control grid dismantles, an uncomfortable feeling with the freedom, almost like clinging, like, well, okay, when I was under the mental constructs of this trauma programming and pulling me back into this grief and failure and everything, at least I knew who I was. I knew where I was. I felt safe, but we can't stay there anymore. And this is like shooting us out. But then a period of time of just this in between, because we have with Jupiter in Pisces, at the early degrees, it makes a T-square with the sun and the moon in this lunar eclipse. And so we've got this mutable T-square. We also have a very powerful mutable square with Mercury and Neptune as Mercury prepares to turn retrograde just after this lunar eclipse. And so the retrograde begins at 24 degrees Gemini. And so it is, Neptune right now is at 22 degrees Pisces. And so just before Mercury turns retrograde, it comes into this square. So basically still in square as it turns retrograde. And that means that Mercury will spend close to 3 weeks in this square with Neptune. So we got 3 weeks of total confusion starting right now and leading up through this full moon, and pretty much from the lunar eclipse to the solar eclipse that happens on June 11th. This chapter of absolute confusion. Now, interestingly enough, because of the retrograde, Mercury will go retrograde, but then when it comes direct, it will come back into a square for a whole nother week. So this means over the next 6 weeks, we've got 4 whole weeks of Mercury in square to Neptune in Pisces. Now, Mercury at home in Gemini, Neptune at home in Pisces. So when planets are at home, it's kind of coming head to head, and it's weird. I can feel this Mercury Gemini being like ready to defend your own thoughts and beliefs. That it's really okay for me to question, to think through things, to discuss things, to explore alternate realities and information. And it's like, it's okay to be confused. It's much better to be confused than it is to cling to false beliefs. And this is our surrender right now, right? Like, just letting ourselves be in this place, because what's happening with this Mercury retrograde, if we can fully receive it, is an absolute complete rearranging of the psyche of humanity, allowing us to go to a whole nother level of experience for human existence. And you're leading the way in that. So very uncomfortable in a way, because it's like, well, okay, I'm ready to be my bigger self. Oh, the fear programming. Wait, can I handle it? What am I doing? I don't know who I am. And a complete psychic rearranging. All of us having to face cognitive dissonance around where we can't quite make sense or peace with reality. And this Mercury retrograde is about going to more confusion, but ultimately the gift of feeling secure. You know, when you come to the truth of things in your life and you're like, oh, this is like, and then later you're like, oh, that makes sense now. I see the bigger picture. And then you can be at peace in your psyche. And this is what we need to get to, you know, in order to go to that next level of consciousness. And that's what this period of time is about, all starting with this very powerful Phoenix rising from the ashes of this Sagittarius. It's like supernova soul standing up and being like, oh, I haven't even gotten started yet. Get the F out of my way, you know? And facing head on this confusion, this I don't know who I am, I don't know where I'm going, I don't know what's up with the world, but it's okay, because it's almost like the confusion of our conceptual reality and our external reality and our mind and the programming, it's making way for greater sense of self in your connection to source and spirit. And that's what this Jupiter moving into Pisces is kind of trying to bring, because the sun is very powerful, that the sun, as it moves over into Gemini here in these next couple of days, coming into that square with Jupiter. So the sun is, who are you? And in square to Jupiter in Pisces, who are you? Do you know your own mind? Mercury in Gemini. And we have a oneness consciousness. This is the mystery of Pisces. It's this connection to source, this mystical revelation, this ability to dream and vision our reality. And then it's the programming that's kept us in the old movie, you know? So we're facing all of it and being pushed back into this connection to the oneness. Now, maybe it's like that's how we got disconnected from God, is we got so confused and so manipulated through religious structures and through paradigms and disease, that, you know, when you get really confused, this is what's going on in the news cycle. It's like you can feel it. It's like when you're really confused and you can't make sense, it's like it makes sure that's manipulation, and it makes your psyche just go, oh, forget it all. I'll just, can't even go there because I'm just too confused about it, right? The Piscean age, the trauma, the tragedy of the Piscean age was taking this oneness consciousness and using it to control humanity. And then we got disconnected from our oneness consciousness, and now we got to forge our way back there. And that's what this full moon eclipse is saying. Forge your way back there, because that's how we undo the bad movie and dream a new dream and claim back. We got to claim back our psyche, claim back truth, claim back peace. And that all comes with this connection to source, that, like, you know, everything that's happening right now is totally effed, but it's all God's play. And so seeing this tightening, this squeezing of energy between events and then the secondary effect of events, squeezing together where it's a boomerang, and everything that's trying to hold humanity down is actually awakening humanity. A beautiful place. And yet, think about a boomerang, and you throw the boomerang and it's got this huge trajectory to a certain point, and then, boom, turns around. And at that turning point, it probably, you fall off the wagon there, you know? You better hold on, put your seatbelt on. That's where we're at. You know, the trajectory is changing. And so it's time for us to run with this. This is this lunar eclipse, and Sag is like, oh, I haven't even gotten started yet. I'm a phoenix rising from the ashes. I went and I looked at my darkest dark. I found those darkest places. I realize now it's programming. It's not who I am. I'm here to demonstrate the new level of human experience, and let's get on with it. I'm done with those old stories, stepping out of the past. And how we do that is this Sun square Jupiter energy, the tension pressuring us back to, the only way we get to peace of mind is back to that oneness consciousness and trust and faith in all you've gone through as a soul to get you right here, right now. And trust and faith in the boomerang, and in that, like, when we go through this portal of oneness, it's like outside of duality. This is Gemini. The magic of Gemini is overcoming duality consciousness. Miracles through changes in perceptual awareness. And so with all these energies in Gemini and these intense mutable squares with Gemini and Sagittarius, Gemini and Pisces, it's a complete rearranging of the psyche, and the only way forward is to go back to God. It's the only way to make sense of all of this. It's the only way to come to psychic peace. And when you have that faith, then you can face the darkness of dark truths. You can face a cognitive dissonance, and you can walk through the fires. And that's the Sagittarius full moon. It's like, are we going, or are we going to just stay here in this uncomfortable place? Very powerful message came through around this very strange, what's happening with these timelines, and what's happening, is this really such a danger, this jab, that people are going to be, passing from this, like, what's going on? Are people choosing this as an opportunity to get to disconnect from this timeline? And coming to this place of that it all comes down to that timeline is about disconnection from source and God, and the true timeline, the divine timeline, who you are in your bigger self and everything you came here to do, which you haven't even gotten started with, is about the connection and living and breathing this connection. This is the new level of experience of humanity, where we value in the highest regard those that are demonstrating the action and expression of life force, inspiration. This is the Sagittarius energy too. It's creative inspiration. It's people who inspire you to be greater and do more. And this is what it means to be human, is to expand in consciousness. And it's been held back for so long, but nothing can stop this shift of ages and this consciousness coming in. And here we are preparing for this through this incredible astrology lining up for us. And we've gone into the depths of our psyche with that Black Moon Lilith activation. And now we need to go into the mental plane and reprogram that psyche, come back to peace with the world, with the oneness, with the everything is going to come back to the light, because that's all there really is. And you're here to fully express that and demonstrate that, and it's going to be glorious and amazing. But first we got to get reoriented, and so this Mercury retrograde could take us deeper into confusion. It's also our ticket out and back into clarity, but that has everything to do with coming back into this right relationship to source. So deep mysteries coming up here, so the energy of these mutable squares are tension, but mutable signs are adjustments, and we got Mercury at home in Gemini, the mind, Neptune at home in Pisces, our connection to source and spirituality, and who are we and what are we even doing here? Major revelation. This energy could bring major revelation of truths, but personal spiritual revelation. You cannot come back to psychic peace until you see the work of God in your life. And then you're like, oh, I thought I understood. I thought I knew it right. I thought I did it wrong. I thought I did this. And now I see the big picture. And how what I thought was right at the time, there was a bigger part of me that really knew what was best for me. And this is where we're just stepping back into a direct relationship with our higher self, our highest self, our future selves. and then stepping back on that divine timeline. That's what this eclipse season is about. And it's about realigning with Source as our only way into that new level of human consciousness and experience that you are here to lead the way and demonstrate. So very powerful. This Sun square Jupiter is really interesting. As the Sun moves over into Gemini, Jupiter just moved over into Pisces, and that square, who are we in this expansion, spiritual expansion. And so this whole year has been about how do we adjust? Okay, now we're moved into the Aquarian age energy. Who are we? What are we doing? How do we move forward? This is what 2021, the message is. We had that Mercury retrograde in Aquarius, and we had Sun Venus over the equinox and the Aries point, and Sun Mercury moving into Taurus, and now Sun Jupiter square as the Sun moves over into Gemini. It's almost like we're getting a rehash, a reworking, a re-understanding of what each sign and energy of the astrology means in the Aquarian age. Re-education. This is exactly this Mercury retrograde. Oh. Rehabilitative re-education of the human psyche. Hey, you guys, you've been totally manipulated and controlled, and your energy mined from you, basically kept as a slave, even though you have these higher potential within you. So when are we going to take back that power and move this whole train forward? And that's what we're trying to figure out. And so hang tight, sit tight, be present with the spiritual revelation, with the Phoenix energy of coming out of the ashes of all of the work that you've done. You know, the energy of this last period of time was kind of like looking at where we've been emotionally suppressed, right? And then we talked about how, well, if you're in denial, you're pushing away life force or God force or Christ consciousness from your life. If you're in suppression, emotional suppression or denial, and it's like that deep, dark place in all of us that we keep getting pushed back into, and we're like, oh, no, just climb up out of there. It's okay. Distract. And then our life changed so much this last year. So hard to distract from those places. And you went there. Now it's time to rise up out of those stories and be like, yeah, those stories, but I haven't yet gotten started. So how in the world could I have failed in my mission? And I'm ready now. I know who I am. I am at peace in my psyche and ready to move into this new energy, purified and cleansed. It's interesting, this mutable T-square with the Sun and the Moon, Sun in Gemini, Moon in Sagittarius, square Jupiter in Pisces, and then that leaves a T-square, and then it leaves a vacuum energy in Virgo at the beginning of Virgo. So that beginning of Virgo energy is kind of like being activated, almost like a vortex, and that has to do with purification. And this is kind of the key of being like, oh, I've been carrying all this darkness, but that's not who I am. And I'm coming into the light of who I am and giving myself full permission to enjoy and experience and have what I need. Hard after you've been so beaten down and messed with, and this whole timeline working against you. The closer you get into, the more you advance into your spiritual light, the more the forces have worked against you. And now it's those mechanisms are dismantling. But then we got that Stockholm syndrome of, are you safe outside of your cage? How used to you? How addicted are you to the limitations? How defined? This is this Mercury retrograde psyche, blah, like we've become defined by our prison. And time to break free. So this Sagittarius full moon can be a very powerful reimagining, revisioning, a whole energetic reset into your full permission for your Phoenix fire flame, for your full destiny, for your full expression and your quest. And being like, oh, I thought I had this other agenda in past lives, but now I see the truth of what I'm really doing here. And that is null and void of those old stories, those old limitations, and time to break the chains and step out into this next level experience for humanity. And you get to be on the cutting edge and lead the way. And it sounds scary, but it's actually like you finally get to feel better and supported. But can you allow it, So much in these mutable squares, mutable T-square, so much a rearranging and confusion, and Neptune transits always do this. But the message is this: we got to go to the place of more confusion before we can come back to that psychic peace. And so this is a crucial time in that you could claim that your psychic peace and claim your bigger picture, claim your spiritual connection, claim your trust and faith in who you are as a soul, and hold tight to this energy as humanity goes through this bloom of worsening. It's hard to imagine it getting worse, but sometimes things have to get worse before they get better. That's true healing, right? But this bloom of cognitive dissonance, and you you're the lighthouse. You are that ship in the storm, being like, I know it's weird, but it's all about us just coming back to God consciousness, right? And humanity, the most stuck and stubborn energies of fear and clinging to the old, the profound truths that are going to be painful for so many are the way back to God consciousness. It is the spiritual awakening. And here we are at this convergence of timelines through this eclipse season. And so this energy will shift and resolve at around the time of the solstice. And that starts the next chapter of energy, because right around the solstice, we've got Mercury direct, but then Jupiter and Neptune will be turning retrograde. So then we have to rehash everything that we've done so far in 2021 to figure out who we are and what we're doing in this new age, get reoriented with a new definition, a new understanding of each astrological energy. It's like we're downloading a new template. And that seems to be what 2021 is about. And so, massive rearranging of the psyche, except for that you've already been through that. And so you're holding this beautiful space of peace and psychic peace for humanity, as every day you're getting stronger in your knowing and your presence of this God consciousness and why you're even here and how exciting it is to go to this next level of human experience. So thank you so much, supernova souls, for being here on the planet and breathing and making it through all you've made it through, so that you can have this strength right now. And it's all bringing us back to that oneness consciousness, so we can dream a new dream and get out of this madness. So thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you perhaps on the Eclipse Soul Group session. This is a group intuitive session, and we go deeper than the activations, where we're looking at, you get a sense of the individual sessions that I do around opportunities for karmic clearing, contractual clearing, soul retrieval, timeline alignment, past life pictures that can help us with this. And so we look at shared past life pictures and energies of the whole group. And so I hope you can consider joining this eclipse, Total Lunar Eclipse Soul Group session. That's going to be Tuesday, May 25th at 4 p.m. U.S. Mountain Time. So I look forward to seeing you there or on the next update. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.